Hey everyone! Ready to dive deep into the world of Poker Face? Released on April 15, 2022, this film has sparked endless discussions, and today, we're uncovering every thrilling detail. If you enjoy this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps us grow. And for more incredible movie explorations and hidden gems, subscribe to the channel. Now, let's unravel the magic behind this cinematic masterpiece. Released on April 15, 2022, Poker Face hit the big screen with all the suspense and intrigue that one would expect from a film centered around high-stakes gambling. Directed by the versatile and talented Crowe, this crime thriller quickly sparked conversations across movie forums, social media, and among critics, drawing people into its world of deception, tension, and high-stakes drama. While Crowe is best known for his acting chops, his foray into directing with Poker Face marks a bold and promising entry into the world of filmmaking. With every frame, every scene, and every twist, Poker Face reveals itself as more than just another thriller. It's an experience that keeps you on the edge of your seat and forces you to question the very nature of trust, morality, and survival. Poker Face is an extraordinary film because it combines everything that makes for an unforgettable cinematic journey. It's a gripping psychological game, a beautifully shot thriller, and a masterclass in tension building, all in one. What sets it apart from other thrillers is not just its reliance on typical genre tropes but the way it crafts an unpredictable, multi-layered narrative that demands the audience's attention at every turn. From the opening shots, you're pulled into a world where every character has something to hide, and every gesture could mean life or death. The visual style and atmosphere alone are enough to make Poker Face stand out in a sea of thrillers. But the real magic lies in its characters and how they evolve over time, making you care about each one even as they become increasingly more dangerous. The plot of Poker Face is deceptively simple but rich with complexity. At its heart, it's a story about a high-stakes poker game in a remote desert location, far removed from the bustle of the city and the comfort of civilization. A group of strangers, each with their own personal stakes, are drawn together to compete in the ultimate poker tournament. The game itself serves as a high-pressure environment, a microcosm of the larger game of survival and strategy that each character is playing. But Poker Face is much more than just a poker game. The tension doesn't just come from the chips being pushed to the center of the table or the sweaty palms of the players. It comes from the knowledge that something far more sinister is unfolding beneath the surface. Crowe plays the role of a seasoned criminal mastermind, a character whose every move is calculated and whose every word is loaded with meaning. He's a man who's seen it all, and yet, as the story progresses, you realize that there's so much more to him than meets the eye. His portrayal is chilling yet magnetic. You can't look away from him even as his character begins to reveal his darker side. It's a performance that grabs hold of you and never lets go. Alongside Crowe, Hemsworth plays a young, ambitious poker player who's in over his head. Hemsworth's portrayal is raw and vulnerable, and his character's journey from uncertainty to desperation is one of the emotional core elements of the film. Alice Braga's role adds yet another layer of intrigue. Her character's motivations are unclear at first, leaving viewers guessing whether she's an ally or a threat. It's these multidimensional performances that elevate Poker Face beyond the confines of a simple thriller and into something more psychological, a tense exploration of trust and betrayal. The pacing of the film is a delicate balancing act. At times, it lingers in quiet, tension-filled moments, subtle glances between characters, the rustling of cards, the shuffle of chips. These moments give the audience time to breathe, but at the same time, they build a simmering tension that's always just below the surface. Crowe's direction keeps you on your toes, making you second-guess everything you see on screen. It's not just about the game. It's about what's happening between the players, the unspoken alliances, the quiet threats, and the slow reveal of each character's backstory. It's a brilliant way of drawing the viewer into a psychological battle that's just as thrilling as the poker hands being dealt. And then, there are the twists. Oh, the twists. Without giving too much away, Poker Face doesn't just present a simple plot structure and resolve it in the typical manner. It continuously shifts the narrative in ways you don't expect. Just when you think you've figured it out, when you believe you know which character is on top, something happens that throws everything into disarray. Crowe manages to surprise the audience in ways that are both satisfying and unsettling. The stakes constantly rise, both in the game and in the characters' personal lives. And with every move, you begin to wonder who will emerge victorious, who will survive, and who will lose it all. Visually, Poker Face is a stunning film. The desert setting, stark and unforgiving, mirrors the high-stakes nature of the game itself. The endless horizon, the parched land, and the quiet, oppressive heat create a mood of isolation and danger. It's a setting that makes the player's desperation feel all the more palpable. The cinematography enhances the psychological drama, capturing subtle nuances in the characters' expressions and movements, emphasizing the high tension of each moment. The poker game, which serves as the central event, is shot with a sense of intimacy. Each card dealt feels like it could change everything. Each decision is fraught with potential consequences. You can feel the sweat, the anxiety, and the pressure mounting as the game progresses, and that's due to the way Crowe and his team visually communicate the stakes. Poker Face became a cultural phenomenon not just because of its exciting premise but because it taps into something universal, the human desire to outsmart others, to be the last one standing, to survive. We've all experienced moments where we've had to make a decision that could change everything, where the stakes felt impossibly high. And the film plays on that vulnerability, forcing us to confront the choices we might make if pushed to our limits. The combination of the film's intense performances, its twisting plot, and its atmospheric tension makes Poker Face a captivating film that sticks with you long after the credits roll. It taps into the primal desire for survival and explores what happens when trust is shattered and alliances turn to betrayals. But more than that, Poker Face raises interesting questions about human nature. What happens when people are pushed to the edge? How do we respond to fear, to pressure, to loss? It's not just a film about poker, it's about how we play the game of life itself. The film invites us to consider the masks we wear, the personas we project, and the darker motivations lurking beneath the surface. It's a thrilling exploration of the mind, the choices we make, and the consequences of those choices. As viewers, we are drawn into the psychological labyrinth of Poker Face, forced to navigate the tricky dynamics between the players. Who can be trusted? Who is lying? Who is playing a deeper game? These are questions that linger long after the film ends, creating a lasting impact on the audience. And while the film's twists and turns keep us hooked, it's the characters and their complexities that stay with us. They are more than just players in a game. They are symbols of the human condition, trapped in a web of their own making. In the end, Poker Face is not just a film you watch, it's a film you experience. Its themes resonate long after the final card is played, making it a must-see for anyone who loves a good psychological thriller. It's a film that challenges you to think, to question, and to reevaluate your assumptions. So, if you haven't yet taken the plunge into Poker Face, now is the perfect time. Prepare yourself for a journey filled with suspense, intrigue, and unforgettable performances. Trust us, the game is far from over. The first half of Poker Face unfolds in a world of tension, secrecy, and calculated risks, where every character is locked in a high-stakes game that's about much more than just poker. From the opening scenes, the atmosphere is thick with unease. The desolate desert setting, with its endless stretch of nothingness, sets the perfect stage for a game that will see lives transformed, allegiances shattered, and destinies decided in the blink of an eye. The movie opens with a shot of a dusty, windswept desert highway, the kind of place where secrets can easily be buried and where no one can hear you scream. A weathered, solitary vehicle pulls into a dimly lit, nearly abandoned casino, a place that promises not only excitement but danger. The world feels isolated and detached, much like the characters who will soon be thrust into this deadly environment. We are introduced to the poker table, where the game isn't just about chips, but about control, manipulation, and survival. Russell Crowe's character, as the mastermind orchestrating this high-stakes tournament, is immediately presented as an enigmatic figure. His calm, collected, with a face as unreadable as the cards in his hand. Crowe's portrayal of this calculating, somewhat mysterious figure is mesmerizing. There's an underlying sense that his character is far more than just the host of the game. He's the puppet master, pulling the strings, keeping everything tightly wound. His past is something hinted at but never fully explained in the opening scenes, a shadow that lingers over every action. As he stands in the background, overseeing the game, it's clear that his role is far more central than anyone realizes. Then, there's Liam Hemsworth's character, a young man named Max, who enters the casino with the kind of swagger only someone who is looking to prove themselves can have. He's ambitious, but there's a sense of vulnerability beneath the surface. You can see the fear and the hunger for more in his eyes, and it's this duality that makes him so compelling. Max is here for more than just the money. He's hoping this game will give him a chance to redeem himself, to escape a troubled past that's slowly creeping up on him. Hemsworth portrays the character with rawness, showing that beneath the bravado lies a man struggling to make sense of his own desires and the demons that drive him. The tension is immediately palpable between Max and Crowe's character, whose name is soon revealed to be Victor. Victor seems to take a keen interest in Max, and this is where the game begins to take shape. It's not just about the cards being dealt. It's about control, manipulation, and testing one's limits. As the players settle into their positions at the table, each of them brings with them a history that remains largely hidden from the others, but one that will come to play a critical role as the story unfolds. The casino itself is a character in its own right, a place where you can't quite tell where the danger lies. The walls seem to close in on the players, the flickering neon lights giving the space an eerie, almost surreal quality. There are no windows, no way to escape except through the game. Crowe's directorial choices make sure that the space feels suffocating, creating an atmosphere where every movement and every decision seems to carry the weight of a life-altering consequence. Enter Alice Braga's character, Maria, a poker player with an air of mystery. She's not like the others at the table. Her demeanor is cool, collected, too calm for someone who's about to engage in such a high-stakes competition. There's a quiet intensity to her, and from the moment she sits down, the audience is left wondering whether she's an ally or a foe. Is she here for the money, or is there something darker at play? Her interactions with the other players, especially Victor and Max, only add to the suspicion. Is she in this for the same reasons as the others, or does she have her own agenda? The film plays with her motivations, keeping viewers on edge, unsure of who she can truly trust. As the game progresses, we're introduced to several other key players, each with their own distinct personalities and motivations. There's John, played by a supporting actor, a grizzled veteran of poker, whose experience at the table makes him a formidable opponent. His sharp instincts and no-nonsense attitude serve as a stark contrast to the younger, more impulsive Max, adding an element of conflict between the two. Max wants to prove himself, but John knows the risks that come with rushing into things. This tension is palpable throughout the first half of the film, as Max tries to show he can handle the pressure, while John offers a cautionary tale, telling him that the game isn't just about winning, it's about surviving. But it's not just about the poker at this point. As the characters sit around the table, exchanging glances and small talk, you start to sense that something more sinister is at play. The players aren't just here for the game. They are all connected by something far darker than just money. Crowe's Victor is methodical in the way he moves his pieces, testing each player's resolve, trying to figure out who is willing to cross a line to win, and who will break under pressure. It's in these small moments, the slight hesitation before a bet, the subtle glance exchanged between two players, that the tension begins to grow. The first pivotal moment comes during a particularly high-stakes hand, when Victor pushes the game to the edge, forcing players to make decisions that could determine their fate. The camera zooms in on the players' faces, capturing every flicker of doubt, every sign of hesitation. Crowe, as Victor, remains unreadable, a stone face that never gives anything away. The suspense is unbearable, with each player calculating their next move with deadly precision. This is the first time the audience gets a true sense of how high the stakes are, not just in the game, but in the larger context of the characters' lives. Every bet, every bluff, every moment feels like it could be the one that changes everything. Max's first real test comes when he's forced to make a decision that could either earn him respect or doom him. The tension between him and Victor becomes even more pronounced, as Max starts to realize that he's not just playing for money, he's playing for something far more dangerous. The film does an excellent job of showing how Max is being manipulated by Victor, who has carefully observed his every move and is now steering him into a corner. But Max, driven by his own need to prove himself, doesn't see the trap that's being laid for him. Meanwhile, Maria's role in the game becomes more complicated. She's not as innocent as she first appears, and it quickly becomes clear that she's playing a game of her own. There are moments when she exchanges knowing looks with Victor, as if they are somehow on the same wavelength, and these moments only add to the sense of paranoia surrounding the game. Is Maria working with Victor? Or is she an independent player trying to outsmart everyone else at the table? The ambiguity surrounding her character is one of the film's greatest strengths, as it keeps the audience guessing at every turn. As the first half of the film progresses, we begin to see cracks in the facade of the game. Victor's calm, collected exterior starts to slip as the stakes rise, and his true nature begins to show. He's not just a man running a poker game. He's a man with a dark past, one that is carefully kept hidden, but which is slowly starting to surface. There are hints that Victor has orchestrated this entire game for reasons that go beyond just making money. His manipulation of Max and the other players becomes more apparent, and it's clear that his goal isn't just to win. He's playing a much deeper game, one that has personal stakes for everyone involved. The tension between the characters continues to escalate as they are pushed to their limits. Secrets begin to leak out, alliances are formed, and betrayals are hinted at. And just when you think you have a handle on where the film is going, Crowe throws in a curveball. The first half of Poker Face is a masterclass in suspense, building layer upon layer of tension until you're left on the edge of your seat, waiting for the next move, the next revelation, the next twist that will change everything. The first half of Poker Face does an exceptional job of drawing you into a world of deception, intrigue, and high-stakes drama. It's not just about poker, it's about the psychological game being played between the characters, and the ways in which their personal desires and fears drive the action. The stakes are high, and the tension is palpable, as every decision could be a life or death one. What began as a simple poker game quickly evolves into something much darker, with each character grappling with their own secrets and motivations, unsure of who they can trust and what they're willing to do to win. As we step into the second half of Poker Face, the air grows thicker with tension, and what once appeared to be a game of high-stakes poker quickly becomes a perilous contest of survival. The stakes, both in the game and in the lives of the players, have risen dramatically, and as each character's facade begins to crack, the tension between them becomes nearly unbearable. By now, the viewer is fully immersed in the psychological and emotional turmoil of the players, who are no longer just fighting for money but fighting to preserve their futures, their secrets, and their lives. The film, which had once felt like a slow burn, now shifts into overdrive. We begin to see the true nature of the players, what they are willing to risk and sacrifice for victory, and the narrative becomes increasingly unpredictable, with every new revelation twisting the plot in unexpected directions. The key to understanding the second half lies in its unpredictability, where the audience is no longer a passive observer, but an active participant in the mental chess game between the characters. The first major turning point comes when Max, having been manipulated by Victor into making decisions that hurt his standing in the game, begins to suspect that there's more at play than just poker. The slow realization dawns on him. Victor has been playing him from the start. In a tense confrontation, Max accuses Victor of being the true villain of the game, but Victor, with his cold, calculating demeanor, remains unfazed. His response is chilling. This isn't about poker, Maximum. This is about control. You're here because you've been chosen, and you're too late to back out now. This exchange marks a pivotal moment in the narrative. Max, who had previously been a pawn in Victor's game, realizes that his survival in this game requires more than just skill at poker. It requires cunning, understanding of the players around him, and the ability to outthink them. This marks Max's transition from a naive participant to a far more dangerous player who begins to see the game for what it really is. The moment is a sharp turning point, and the tension in the room becomes palpable as Max starts plotting his next move, determined to regain control. Meanwhile, Maria, whose true motivations had remained shrouded in mystery, starts to reveal herself in more subtle ways. Her behavior becomes more erratic, her decisions more unpredictable. She's no longer just a passive player. She's actively shaping the course of the game. There's an undercurrent of desperation in her actions, Her earlier calmness is now replaced by a fierce need to win, no matter the cost. It becomes clear that Maria is driven by something far darker than money. She's after something far more personal, and her involvement in this game is not a matter of chance. Something in her past has pushed her to this point, and the more we learn about her, the more the film hints that Maria may have an entirely different agenda than the other players. One of the most significant twists in the second half occurs during a particularly intense poker hand, where the remaining players are forced to bet everything they have. Victor, as the master manipulator, has set the scene to force each player into a corner, and it's in this moment that the psychological game reaches its apex. The stakes are no longer just chips and money, but life itself. As the cards are dealt, Maria and Max both make moves that, on the surface, appear like standard poker strategies. But beneath those actions, there's something else, something far more calculated. They are each playing Victor's game, but they are also trying to outplay each other. The tension rises to a fever pitch, and the final showdown in this hand feels like a breathless moment where the fate of all the players hangs in the balance. The hand ends in a dramatic moment of revelation. Victor has outplayed them all. It's a stunning twist that leaves everyone, including the audience, stunned. He reveals that he has been manipulating not just the poker game, but every aspect of the players' lives since the moment they walked into the casino. The final revelation is a game changer. The poker game was never about winning money. It was always about Victor testing his players, pushing them to their breaking points, to see how far they would go in pursuit of power, control, and survival. The ultimate test was about breaking their wills, seeing who would crack under pressure and who would rise to the occasion. In a cruel twist of fate, the game has been rigged from the start. The shock of this revelation is a gut punch to the remaining players, particularly Max, who feels the sting of betrayal deeper than anyone else. What started as a simple poker game, a chance to win money and escape his past, has now become a test of his character. Victor's manipulations, which had seemed so calculated earlier, now appear as nothing more than an elaborate ruse to control the lives of everyone involved. Max must come to terms with the fact that he's not just playing for money, he's playing for his very survival. Victor's revelation changes the dynamics of the game completely. No longer is it just a game of cards. It becomes a battle for control, and every player realizes that the true enemy is not the person sitting across from them at the table, but Victor himself. The stakes have been raised to a point of no return, and the atmosphere in the casino becomes unbearably tense. Victor has set the stage for a final confrontation, one that will push the players to their physical and mental limits. In the aftermath of Victor's shocking confession, the dynamics between the remaining players start to shift dramatically. Max and Maria, once adversaries, now form an uneasy alliance. They both realize that to survive, they must work together to take down Victor, the true antagonist of the game. Their partnership is fraught with tension, as neither fully trusts the other, but the threat of Victor's power forces them to put aside their differences and pool their resources. This alliance marks a significant turning point in the story, as the narrative shifts from one of individual survival to one of teamwork and mutual survival. The audience is left on the edge of their seats, wondering if Max and Maria will be able to outwit the mastermind and take control of the game before it's too late. In a climactic sequence that brings the psychological drama to a head, Victor decides to raise the stakes even further by introducing an unexpected twist into the game. He forces the remaining players into a do-or-die situation, with the loser of the next hand facing not just financial ruin, but the loss of their freedom and possibly their life. This high-pressure moment forces Max and Maria into a corner. They must rely on everything they've learned about each other, about Victor, and about the game to make their final moves. The cards are dealt, and the final showdown between Max, Maria, and Victor begins. The emotional weight of this confrontation is palpable. As the stakes rise, we see the toll the game has taken on Max and Maria. Their earlier motivations, Max's desperation to escape his past, Maria's need to prove something to herself, are overshadowed by the realization that this game is not just about winning, it's about survival. The players' fears, insecurities, and desires are laid bare as they go head-to-head with Victor, and the audience feels every moment of it. In a final, breathtaking moment of the film, the last card is revealed, and the game reaches its inevitable climax. Max and Maria have outplayed Victor, but not without a heavy cost. The casino, once a place of hope and redemption, becomes a grim battleground where only one can truly emerge victorious. The final resolution, while satisfying, leaves a lingering sense of unease, as the consequences of the game are far-reaching, and the price of survival is steep. As the film concludes, the emotional toll on the characters is evident. The once simple game of poker has transformed into a brutal test of willpower, and each player's journey has taken them to places they never expected to go. The story of Poker Face is not just about the game. It's about the choices people make when pushed to their limits, and the psychological price of survival. The second half of Poker Face ties together the narrative threads of manipulation, betrayal, and self-discovery, weaving a complex tale of survival in the most dangerous of circumstances. What begins as a game of chance transforms into a deeply psychological battle for power, leaving both the characters and the audience questioning what they would do in the same situation. By the end, the game is over, but the consequences of the decisions made in the heat of the moment will linger long after the final hand is played. Creating Poker Face wasn't just a simple matter of assembling a talented cast, setting up a poker table, and rolling the cameras. The film's journey was an intricate and often surprising one, full of challenges, creative decisions, and little-known stories that gave it the unique flavor it eventually showcased on the big screen. Behind the glossy visuals and high-stakes drama lies a production filled with peculiar moments, unexpected challenges, and fascinating facts that you wouldn't believe unless you were there to witness it firsthand. Let's take you on an engaging behind-the-scenes journey through the making of Poker Face, shedding light on everything from technical hurdles to curious cast interactions and even a few controversial moments that shook the production. The mysterious poker table. The poker table in Poker Face plays more of a role than just being the surface where cards are dealt and bets are placed. It acts almost like a character in its own right, a place where tensions simmer, alliances form, and secrets unravel. But what many viewers may not know is that the table itself caused some significant headaches during production. For one, the filmmakers wanted to create a sense of claustrophobia and isolation in the casino setting, and they knew the table had to feel imposing. But designing the perfect table for the atmosphere proved trickier than expected. The filmmakers needed to make sure the design was not only aesthetically fitting but also practical, allowing the cameras to capture the nuances of the characters' expressions in tight shots. The team went through several iterations before they were satisfied. The final design was a custom-built table, measuring exactly 6 feet by 6 feet. This made it large enough to accommodate the ensemble cast and create that feeling of space for the poker game, but compact enough to maintain that sense of intimacy and tension. On top of that, the surface was made of a unique material that mimicked the look of a worn-in casino table, giving it a lived-in feel without being overly glossy. This custom design played a huge role in setting the mood for the entire movie. Filming on it was particularly tricky, as the actors often had to lean in, their faces inches away from the table during heated moments. This created a challenge for lighting, as every tiny change in angle would impact how the characters' emotions were reflected in the shots. The production team spent hours adjusting the lighting each day, focusing on capturing the right balance of shadow and light on the players' faces. The result was an unforgettable visual quality that heightened the suspense of every poker hand. The desert casino setting. Much of the film takes place in the remote, nearly desolate casino, and while it feels as though it's nestled deep in the middle of nowhere, this setting posed its own set of unique problems. The desert landscape itself was both a blessing and a curse for the filmmakers. On the one hand, it perfectly captured the sense of isolation and desperation that runs through the film, but on the other, the intense heat, the dust, and the sheer vastness of the location made filming more difficult than anyone could have predicted. Filming in the desert was especially taxing for the cast, particularly during the hot summer months. While the crew set up the casino interior in a controlled environment, the exterior shots were shot in the unforgiving heat of the desert, which regularly hit over 110 degrees Fahrenheit 43 degrees Celsius during filming. The actors had to endure sweltering conditions, with makeup melting off their faces and costumes sticking to their skin as they attempted to maintain their cool in the sweltering heat. Russell Crowe, known for his method acting, famously stayed in character during breaks, walking around in his full Victor costume, which only added to the intensity of the shooting days. The heat, combined with long hours on set, led to a few funny yet frustrating moments. Like when Crowe's gloves would get so sweaty during a scene that he could barely hold onto his cards. One particularly memorable scene required the characters to step outside the casino and onto a vast stretch of desert, which was meant to symbolize the crushing weight of their predicament. The heat, the dust storms, and the wind posed technical challenges for the crew. On several occasions, the sand would blow so hard that it became nearly impossible to hear the dialogue, leading the production to rework entire sequences. They had to rely on windbreakers and carefully designed artificial elements to control the dust, all while keeping the natural environment in the frame. But the desert's harsh environment led to an unexpected breakthrough, particularly with the use of natural lighting. Director, crew, and cinematographers took advantage of the relentless sunlight, opting for golden hour shoots at dawn and dusk. This natural, warm light added a haunting and almost surreal quality to the film, making certain scenes feel incredibly cinematic and alive. The decision to use these harsh conditions to their advantage became one of the film's defining visual styles. The cast's poker preparation. Casting for a film like Poker Face required more than just selecting actors based on their ability to deliver dialogue. It also required ensuring that they were capable of playing poker convincingly. This isn't just a movie about a card game. It's a movie that centers around the subtle art of reading people, bluffing, and making high-stakes decisions under pressure. Russell Crowe, whose character Victor is the mastermind of the poker game, took the task of learning the game quite seriously. Before filming began, Crowe immersed himself in poker, attending games and even playing with professional players to understand the nuances of the game. He reportedly spent weeks studying poker hands and strategies and hired a personal coach to help him get a feel for the psychological aspects of poker. Interestingly, despite his immersion in the game, Crowe had no real interest in poker before taking on the role. His dedication to portraying Victor as a believable poker expert was so intense that he would sometimes practice in between takes, attempting to refine his skills on set. Meanwhile, Liam Hemsworth, who played Max, had less experience with poker, and his preparation process was equally intense. Hemsworth wanted to ensure that he could hold his own at the table and, more importantly, that his character's emotions, nervousness, desperation, and triumph, would translate naturally into the way he played. To prepare, Hemsworth participated in multiple poker boot camps where he practiced not just the mechanics of the game, but the subtle psychological aspects as well. The actor was known to often get frustrated when his hand wasn't up to par, especially when a high-pressure scene was coming up, but the final result showed that Hemsworth's determination paid off. He brought a genuine nervous energy to the table, which helped emphasize Max's journey from an inexperienced player to someone fully aware of the stakes. As for Alice Braga, who played Maria, she took a unique approach to her poker preparation. Instead of focusing solely on the technical aspects of the game, Braga spent time with the director discussing her character's deeper motivations. Maria's cold, calculating exterior hides a deeply emotional core, and Braga wanted to ensure that her poker face wasn't just about the game itself. It had to reflect her internal conflict. The actress worked on tapping into her character's past, imagining how she would react when faced with life-altering decisions. This psychological preparation gave Braga a quiet intensity, which was crucial when it came to the poker scenes. Her ability to convey subtle emotion through a controlled facial expression became a defining characteristic of the film. The poker scenes and their cinematic innovation. When it comes to poker movies, the challenge lies in capturing the emotional intensity of the game without it feeling too static or formulaic. Filmmakers often use tricks to make the action more visually dynamic, but with Poker Face, the creative team took a fresh approach. To make the poker scenes stand out, the director, in collaboration with the cinematographers, employed several unconventional techniques. One of the most striking decisions was to use close-up shots of players' eyes during key moments of the game. This created an intimate and sometimes unnerving sense of tension, highlighting the psychological warfare taking place in every hand. But these close-ups weren't just for dramatic effect, they also had a deeper meaning. Eyes are often referred to as the windows to the soul, and in Poker Face, they served as the lens through which the audience could truly understand the character's motivations. The cinematographers designed several shots where the camera would linger just long enough on a player's face to create a feeling of unease, forcing viewers to guess what the character was thinking. This focus on the eyes helped elevate the psychological tension in the film, emphasizing the mental games that were being played behind the poker hands. Perhaps the most striking behind-the-scenes story comes from one of the poker sequences that was shot in a single take, with no edits. This required precise timing and coordination, as the actors had to deliver their lines, execute their poker moves, and react in real time while maintaining the intense atmosphere of the game. The scene, which occurs near the climax of the movie, was one of the most challenging moments of the shoot. The crew had to prepare for hours to get the lighting and camera angles just right, but the payoff was worth it. The extended take allowed for an immersive, uninterrupted sense of tension, and it remains one of the standout moments in the film. Controversial moments and behind-the-scenes drama. No film is without its share of behind-the-scenes drama, and Poker Face was no exception. One particularly contentious moment occurred during a key scene involving a confrontation between Max and Victor. The actors, already exhausted from long hours on set and intense emotional scenes, found themselves struggling to bring the right level of intensity to the scene. There were reports that Crowe and Liam Hemsworth butted heads during the rehearsal, with Crowe pushing Hemsworth to bring more emotion to the scene, while Hemsworth argued that the moment was about restraint. The tension between the two actors created an environment that some of the crew described as intense, but when the cameras rolled, the results spoke for themselves. The scene remains one of the film's most emotionally charged moments, with the actors delivering a nuanced performance that perfectly captures their characters' conflicts. Despite the tension on set, the actors' dedication to their roles is evident in the final product. What could have been a moment of discord ultimately became a source of creative energy that shaped the film into the masterpiece it is. The film's ability to weave together moments of intense drama and high-stakes suspense speaks to the creative risks taken during its production. As Poker Face continues to captivate audiences, these behind-the-scenes stories remind us that every great film is the result of not only talent but the perseverance to overcome obstacles, the creative choices that define the film, and the fascinating personalities that bring it all to life. Creating Poker Face wasn't just about telling a compelling story with a sharp script and an incredible cast. It was about pushing the boundaries of what a thriller could be, both visually and narratively. From the first frame to the last, the movie is a testament to the seamless blending of creative ingenuity and technical precision. As we delve into the production of this tense, high-stakes psychological thriller, it's clear that every aspect, from the setting to the smallest visual detail, was designed to enhance the drama. What sets Poker Face apart is not only its gripping narrative but also the groundbreaking techniques used behind the scenes, which gave it its signature cinematic style. Let's explore some of the most fascinating insights and technical achievements that made the production of Poker Face as extraordinary as the movie itself. The vision behind the film's style. The directors of Poker Face understood that a movie set in a high-pressure poker game needed to evoke both a sense of tension and intimacy. The primary goal was to create an immersive atmosphere, where the audience could feel as if they were sitting at the table, sweating with every card dealt, and guessing who would fold and who would go all in. This wasn't just about the narrative, it was about drawing viewers into a world where every hand, every decision, and every glance could shift the course of the film. From this vision came an approach to filming that was less about traditional cinematic tricks and more about subtlety and nuance. A significant part of this creative direction involved how the movie would be shot. Cinematographer Jane Lee, renowned for her mastery of lighting and composition, was brought on to create a visual style that would complement the psychological tension at the heart of the story. Lee's approach was methodical, using shadows and light to reflect the dark undertones of the poker game. Her innovative technique was to allow the camera to linger on certain players' faces for just a beat longer than usual. This subtle technique made the audience feel the pressure building on the characters in real time, as if we could read their poker faces and see through their lies. Lee's work focused on isolating the characters in the poker game through a series of tight close-ups, especially when the players were contemplating their next move. These moments were crucial not just for the narrative but also for the sense of suspense and psychological intensity. By emphasizing the players' facial expressions and capturing the tiniest micro-expressions, Lee created an atmosphere where every flicker of doubt, anxiety, or confidence was magnified. This gave the film a sense of realism and emotional weight that made the poker game more than just a card game. It became a battlefield for the soul. One of the most memorable examples of Lee's technique is a pivotal scene where Max and Victor square off in the middle of a high-stakes poker hand. As the camera focuses on their faces, it doesn't just capture their reactions to the game. It captures the inner conflict each is experiencing. Max's desperation, Victor's control, and the subtle power dynamics between them are all conveyed through these extreme close-ups. The tension is palpable, and the audience can almost feel the heat of the moment without a word being spoken. It's moments like these where Lee's technical brilliance shines through. She doesn't just tell the story with visuals. She makes the audience feel the story, breaking the fourth wall with POV shots. Another striking technical choice in Poker Face was the use of point of view, POV, shots to place the audience directly into the shoes of the characters. While POV shots are common in horror or action genres, Poker Face used them in a more cerebral way, allowing the viewer to experience the tension and paranoia of the poker game from the perspective of the characters themselves. In the opening scenes, we are first introduced to Max's point of view, watching the game unfold around him with a mix of awe and fear. His inexperience is felt not only through his reactions but also through how the camera follows his gaze as he examines each player, trying to decipher their intentions. The camera doesn't just stay on the players. At times, it will follow Max's eyes, creating a sense of disorientation and anxiety. This gives the audience insight into his nervousness, and it connects us more intimately to his journey, especially as the stakes grow higher. In several key poker moments, the film cuts to Max's perspective, and we see his hand shaking as he places a bet or his gaze lingering on another player. The intimacy of these POV shots, combined with the mounting tension, forces the audience to feel the same level of stress that Max is undergoing. But the POV shots are not limited to Max alone. In the critical moments when the game intensifies, the film transitions between different characters' points of view, allowing us to see through the eyes of Victor, Maria, and even the dealer. This shift is subtle yet effective, helping to highlight the inner motivations of each player. These quick POV transitions provide an almost schizophrenic quality to the storytelling, giving viewers the sensation of being trapped inside the minds of the characters as they assess, calculate, and bluff their way through the game. It's a groundbreaking approach to storytelling in a genre that often relies on external tension, instead making it deeply personal and internal. The use of sound and silence to amplify tension. Sound plays a critical role in Poker Face, as it does in many films of this genre. But what's fascinating here is how the filmmakers use silence to amplify the tension rather than relying solely on dramatic soundscapes. While the film features a brooding, low-key score that builds as the game intensifies, it's the moments of almost unbearable silence that make the biggest impact. Director of sound design, Peter Harrison, worked meticulously with the sound team to create a layered auditory experience that reflected the heightened emotions of the characters. The poker scenes are a perfect example of this technique. While the dealer shuffles the cards or chips are stacked, the soundtrack fades, and the sounds become almost muted, forcing the audience to pay attention to every little detail. The tapping of fingers on the table, the sharp intake of breath, and the slight shuffle of cards become the soundtrack to the drama. This stripped-back approach to sound design mirrors the psychological warfare taking place at the table, where every move is calculated and every sound, no matter how small, could signal victory or defeat. In particular, during the game's climax, the sound design takes on a more chaotic feel, with the jarring contrast of intense silence followed by sudden bursts of noise. For example, when a character makes a huge bet, the surrounding sounds, previously muted, suddenly rush back into the frame with a sudden increase in volume. This shift in sound makes the audience's heart race, effectively building suspense. When Maria, in a moment of desperation, flips her cards, the scene is punctuated by an explosive burst of noise. Cymbals clashing, the sound of air whooshing through the casino, and the rush of adrenaline. It's a small auditory trick, but it has a huge impact, forcing the audience to feel the emotional weight of the moment. Challenging production locations and technical innovations. Poker Face also broke new ground with its innovative use of locations. The film's setting, a seemingly remote desert casino, was not a simple backdrop but a vital part of the narrative. The production team faced the monumental task of making the casino feel both grand and oppressive at the same time, which meant creating the perfect balance between interior and exterior shots. What many viewers might not realize is that the casino was not built in a conventional way. The team behind the film worked with an architect to design a fully functional set that could be completely transformed based on the needs of each scene. The casino itself was constructed in an isolated desert area, several miles away from the nearest town. While the location offered the stark beauty of wide, barren landscapes, it also posed numerous technical challenges. First, the desert sun was unforgiving, and the production team had to come up with a way to control the lighting in such a remote area. Portable lighting rigs were set up across the desert floor, enabling them to film seamlessly from the harsh sunlight into the dimly lit casino at any time of day. Building a functional casino set on location was a feat of logistical engineering, but it was made even more challenging by the extreme weather conditions. The high winds and fluctuating temperatures made it difficult to maintain continuity between shots. The production team had to coordinate with local weather specialists to predict wind gusts and dust storms that could disrupt filming. On more than one occasion, the wind picked up unexpectedly, sending sand flying into the casino set, which required the team to halt production for hours to clean up. But despite these challenges, the team's ingenuity allowed them to pull off several spectacular shots. The wide shots of the casino juxtaposed against the endless desert horizon were breathtaking, and the interior shots, with their intricate lighting and designed angles, conveyed the isolation and tension perfectly. These moments didn't just add to the visual spectacle. They tied directly into the film's themes of isolation, desperation, and survival, with the setting becoming another character in the story, pushing the boundaries of narrative structure. Narratively, Poker Face took a bold approach by breaking down traditional storytelling structures. The non-linear progression of time, where flashbacks and character-driven moments were scattered across the narrative, kept the audience on their toes. The choice to reveal critical information about the characters only when necessary added an element of surprise to the film that felt innovative for a thriller. The filmmakers used a unique technique called narrative fragmentation, where the audience is led to believe one version of the story before slowly being fed alternate perspectives. This method was not only a technical storytelling choice but also a visual one, reflected in the way scenes were shot. Sometimes, a seemingly innocuous moment would be revisited from a different angle or perspective, allowing the audience to see the hidden truths behind each character's actions. These shifts were seamless and perfectly timed, ensuring that the twists never felt forced or overly contrived. It was a brilliant use of both technical and creative innovations that made the film stand out as much for its structure as its style. In every aspect, from the visually stunning shots to the innovative sound design, Poker Face was a perfect marriage of creative ambition and technical achievement. The film pushed boundaries, but it did so with subtlety, enhancing the story without ever overwhelming it. The final product, which many call a masterpiece of psychological thrillers, is as much a testament to the talent and vision of the crew behind the scenes as it is to the gripping performances on screen. Each technical choice, from the lighting to the narrative structure, worked in harmony to create an unforgettable cinematic experience. In Poker Face, the brilliance of the story isn't just in its thrilling plot or its tight character-driven drama. It's in the layers of meaning woven throughout the narrative, the symbolism that quietly permeates the film, and the sharp social commentary that addresses deeper, often uncomfortable truths. The movie, while focused on the psychological intensity of a high-stakes poker game, never loses sight of the world it's situated in. From the desert landscape to the tensions between the characters, every element carries weight beyond its surface. The film speaks not only to the individual stakes of its characters but to the larger societal struggles they represent. It's a story about survival, manipulation, power, and the lengths we go to in order to maintain control. But it's also a mirror held up to our world, inviting us to reflect on the systems we're a part of, the roles we play, and the price we pay for playing the game. One of the most striking themes that runs through the core of Poker Face is the idea of control and the illusion of power. At its heart, the poker game is a metaphor for life itself. The characters, especially Victor, are masters of manipulation. Each move in the game is calculated not just to win the hand, but to assert dominance over their opponents. The casino, with its gleaming lights and high-stakes atmosphere, becomes a microcosm of the larger world, where everyone is trying to maintain control over their destiny, but ultimately, they are all subject to the whims of chance. Victor, the seemingly unshakable figure at the center of the film, represents the person who thinks they can control every element of their environment. But as the film progresses, we begin to see how fragile that control really is. The facade of control he maintains over the game starts to crack as the tension rises, and it's clear that no matter how skilled one is at reading the cards or other players, life has a way of upending expectations. Max, on the other hand, embodies the other side of the coin, the feeling of helplessness that comes with the lack of control. Early on, he's the outsider at the table, unaware of the psychological games that are being played. His journey throughout the film mirrors the transition many of us go through in life, from a place of uncertainty and fear to one of confrontation, eventually, understanding. Max begins the film as someone who is trying to navigate a world that feels like it's beyond his control. But as he slowly learns the rules of the game, he starts to find his own footing. The poker table, in a way, becomes a battleground for Max's own internal struggles. The struggle to master his own emotions, to face his insecurities, and ultimately, to assert control over the situation in a way that feels earned, rather than imposed. This theme of control is intricately tied to the setting of the film, especially the desert landscape. The casino, isolated in the vast emptiness of the desert, is a striking symbol of the way we create our own systems of order and structure, only to have them eventually swallowed by the chaos of the world around us. The emptiness of the desert represents the fragile nature of these constructs. It's a place where people gather, make bets, and build their fortunes on the belief that they can shape the world to their liking. But it's also a place that will eventually reclaim everything. The vastness of the desert constantly looms in the background, reminding the characters, and the audience, that for all their efforts, they are still subject to forces beyond their control. Whether it's the changing winds, the sudden dust storms, or the isolation, the desert serves as a reminder of life's unpredictability. No matter how many cards you have in your hand, no matter how much power you think you've accumulated, nature, much like life, has the final say. The symbolism of the poker game itself is another key piece of the puzzle. On the surface, poker is a game of chance, but it's also a game of reading people, of bluffing, and of using information to gain an advantage. In Poker Face, poker becomes a metaphor for how we navigate relationships, social systems, and life's challenges. Every character is playing a different game, and each of them is trying to outwit the others. The game represents more than just the pursuit of money or status. It represents the complex web of human interaction, the subtle power plays, the veiled intentions, the shifting allegiances, and the personal stakes that drive us all. In many ways, the game of poker is an allegory for the way we approach our own lives, balancing risk with reward, navigating uncertainty with hope, and trying to control outcomes that are ultimately beyond our reach. What's particularly powerful about the poker game in Poker Face is how it exposes the vulnerability of the characters. On the surface, poker is all about reading the other players and maintaining a poker face, a mask that hides one's true emotions. But as the game progresses, it becomes clear that the characters cannot fully hide what they're feeling. The masks slip, revealing their fears, desires, and insecurities. In a way, the poker game acts as a catalyst for the characters to face the truth about themselves and each other. In this sense, the game becomes less about the cards on the table and more about the raw emotions that each player is trying to suppress. It's a stunning commentary on the way we often hide our vulnerabilities behind a facade of control or composure, only to have those very emotions surface when the stakes are high. Victor, for all his manipulative power and experience, is perhaps the most vulnerable character at the table. His constant attempts to maintain a cool, calm demeanor mask the fact that he is terrified of losing control, of being exposed for what he truly is. His arrogance and calculated moves are all designed to prevent anyone from seeing his fear, but as the film unfolds, the cracks in his facade become more and more apparent. What begins as a cold, ruthless game of strategy soon shifts into an emotional showdown, where each player is forced to confront the consequences of their actions. In the end, it's not the winner of the game who is the most interesting. It's the journey of self-discovery that each player goes through, exposing the truth that we are all vulnerable to forces beyond our control, and that, sometimes, the greatest gamble is facing ourselves. Beneath these personal struggles, the film also explores more profound societal themes. Poker Face can be interpreted as a commentary on the power structures that govern our world. The casino, where people risk everything in hopes of securing their future, is a stand-in for the broader societal system. A system where the stakes are high, and where power is concentrated in the hands of a few. In this setting, we see how wealth and status can be manipulated, how individuals are pitted against each other in an ongoing battle for control. The poker game, with its shifting alliances and sudden betrayals, reflects the cutthroat nature of the world outside the casino. It's a world where those who are in control of the game, whether they're the bankers, the corporate executives, or the political elite, hold all the cards, while the rest of us scramble for whatever scraps we can get. The film asks an uncomfortable question. How far will we go to secure our place in this system? What are we willing to sacrifice to play the game and win? The social commentary becomes even more evident in the way the characters are portrayed, particularly the women in the story. Maria, played by Alice Braga, is perhaps the most complex character in this regard. She is both a player and a pawn, someone who understands the system and uses it to her advantage but is also deeply aware of the societal limitations placed on her. Throughout the film, she challenges the expectations placed on her as a woman in a male-dominated environment. Her character arc is a subtle exploration of how gender dynamics shape the way we interact with each other and how women, in particular, navigate spaces of power. Maria's struggle isn't just about winning the poker game. It's about finding her place in a system that is stacked against her. In a world where success often depends on manipulation and ruthlessness, Maria must decide how much of her humanity she's willing to sacrifice in order to survive. In Poker Face, the desert landscape, the poker table, and the interpersonal dynamics all combine to create a narrative that is as much about the external game being played as it is about the internal struggles each character faces. The symbolism of the game, the masks they wear, and the fragile control they seek, all reflect broader truths about the human condition. The film taps into the underlying tension of our society, a world where power is hoarded, trust is fleeting, and survival often means bending the rules. But Poker Face doesn't just show the darker side of this world. It asks us to reflect on how we, as individuals, contribute to or challenge the systems we're a part of, and what we're willing to risk in order to change the game. Ultimately, the beauty of Poker Face lies in its ability to blend personal drama with universal themes. It's not just about the stakes of the poker game, it's about the stakes of life itself, and the ways in which we all play the game in our pursuit of power, control, and meaning. In peeling back the layers of the game, the characters, and the audience are left with a haunting question. When the game is over, what will be left of us? In Poker Face, the marriage of visual style, cinematography, and editing plays a vital role in shaping the film's immersive atmosphere and heightening its thematic depth. Every element of the film's production, from the way scenes are framed to the precision of its editing and sound design, works cohesively to draw viewers deeper into the high-stakes world of the poker game. The director's vision is executed through a deliberate and inventive combination of techniques, each contributing to the narrative's tension and emotional weight. From the first frame to the last, the film's style is both visually striking and thematically significant, making each moment feel meticulously crafted to serve not only the plot but the underlying messages of the story. A key element that immediately stands out in Poker Face is its cinematography, led by the visionary Jane Lee. The camera work is designed to build tension and intimacy simultaneously. The visual style throughout the film plays an essential role in reflecting the psychological battle unfolding at the poker table, where every player is not only battling the cards but also battling themselves, each other, and the world outside. Lee's use of lighting, framing, and movement contributes to the film's palpable sense of unease and anticipation, capturing the emotional intensity of each moment while maintaining a high degree of realism. Lighting and shadows, creating an atmosphere of intensity. From the opening scenes, the film's lighting choices draw viewers into a world that is both alluring and suffocating. Lee uses shadows and contrasting light to reflect the inner turmoil of the characters, especially during the tense poker scenes. The casino's atmosphere is bathed in a soft, ambient glow, with occasional flashes of harsher light that emphasize key moments, whether it's the blinding glare of a player's gaze or the calculated glint of chips being stacked. Lighting in Poker Face does not just illuminate the scene. It serves to underscore the emotional landscape of the characters, especially the two central figures, Max and Victor. Max, who enters the game as an outsider, is often lit in such a way that he appears shrouded or obscured by shadows. This visual decision aligns with his character arc. His growing self-awareness and understanding of the game come with the gradual revealing of his inner world. Early in the film, Max's face is often half-lit or hidden in shadows, emphasizing his uncertainty and vulnerability. As he gains confidence and starts playing the game more effectively, the lighting around him becomes more direct, highlighting his transformation from an unsure participant to an active player in the game. In contrast, Victor, the experienced poker player, is frequently lit with a more even, almost clinical light. This gives him an air of control, his every move calculated, as though he's constantly observing and assessing every situation. But as the game progresses, Lee uses lighting to reflect Victor's unraveling control, where his face starts to emerge from the shadows, revealing the stress and cracks in his facade. These shifts in lighting are subtle but impactful, reinforcing the psychological depth of the characters and emphasizing the tension that builds throughout the game. Framing and camera movement, drawing us into the mind of the player. The framing and camera movement in Poker Face are equally integral to the storytelling, adding to the immersive experience of the film. Early in the movie, the camera often focuses on wide shots of the poker table, establishing the setting and the dynamics between the players. However, as the stakes rise and the tension intensifies, the camera pulls in closer, creating an increasingly claustrophobic feeling. The tight shots, particularly close-ups on players' faces as they make their moves, add a layer of intimacy, allowing the audience to feel as if they're sitting at the table with them, experiencing every shift in emotion and decision. One of the most notable stylistic choices is the frequent use of over-the-shoulder shots during the poker game. These shots, often framed from Max's perspective, not only allow the viewer to see the players through his eyes but also convey his sense of being an outsider. He is constantly observing, learning, and trying to read the players around him. The over-the-shoulder shots have the effect of drawing the audience into the mindset of the character, as we are given the same limited perspective that he experiences. As Max's understanding of the game evolves, these shots become less frequent, symbolizing his growth and the increasing mastery he has over his environment. In contrast, Victor, who often maintains a more dominant position at the table, is shown through a more controlled, high-angle lens, reflecting his initial sense of control over the situation. There are also moments where the camera lingers just long enough on a player's face to capture the subtle micro-expressions that betray their thoughts. These lingering shots, whether on a slight twitch of the eye, a tightening jaw, or a calculated pause, make the audience feel the tension and uncertainty building. This careful attention to facial expressions helps create a unique dynamic between the audience and the characters, as we are constantly trying to read between the lines and interpret the unspoken. The camera, much like the players themselves, becomes a subtle yet essential tool in the game of psychological manipulation. The editing in Poker Face is equally critical to its immersive storytelling. The rhythm of the film ebbs and flows in accordance with the stakes of the poker game, with the pace shifting between moments of slow, deliberate tension and rapid, intense bursts of action. In quieter moments, when the players are sizing each other up or taking their time to make a decision, the editing is deliberate, almost languid. The audience is left to linger in these quiet moments of suspense, unsure of what will happen next. The pauses between actions, such as a player making a bet or reading their cards, are held just long enough to keep the viewer on edge, as if we, too, are waiting for the next move. However, as the game progresses and the tension builds, the editing becomes faster, more frenetic, mirroring the escalating stakes and the emotional turmoil of the characters. Quick cuts between the players' faces, the shuffled cards, the escalating bets, and the growing tension in the room heighten the sense of urgency. The rapid pace during these moments reflects the mounting pressure each player feels, with decisions having to be made under the weight of mounting stakes. By juxtaposing these fast-paced sequences with the slower, more reflective moments, the editing amplifies the emotional rollercoaster that the characters are riding. The pacing in Poker Face also plays with the idea of time. Certain moments in the poker game are elongated, with each second feeling as though it could alter the course of the entire game. The editing manipulates our perception of time, forcing us to experience the weight of every moment and decision. This is particularly evident during key moments when the camera lingers on a player's face or a significant gesture, like a hand of cards being dealt. The suspense builds as time seems to stretch indefinitely, keeping the audience in suspense until the next move is made. Sound design, the unseen force that drives the drama. In a film like Poker Face, where so much of the tension comes from what is unspoken, the sound design is crucial to maintaining the atmosphere. Every subtle sound, the shuffle of cards, the clink of chips, the soft muttering of players under their breath, adds to the psychological tension and the high-stakes environment of the casino. The sound design, led by Peter Harrison, works hand in hand with the cinematography and editing to create a sense of intimacy and claustrophobia. Every sound is exaggerated, almost as though it's being amplified to reflect the internal pressure building inside the characters. The sound of a poker chip landing on the table or a card being flipped becomes amplified, resonating in the viewer's mind as the emotional stakes of the game rise. In particular, the silence during key moments of the film is just as important as the sound itself. When there is a dramatic pause between moves, the absence of sound heightens the tension, forcing the audience to hold their breath along with the characters. The hushed, almost whispering atmosphere in these moments amplifies the weight of each decision and the anticipation of what will come next. Silence becomes a tool in itself, conveying a sense of anxiety and unease, as if the characters are suspended in time, waiting for something to shift. When the sound design does break, it's often to signal the emotional or narrative climax of a scene. The crescendo of instruments or the sudden blast of noise, like the crashing of cymbals or a thundering beat, marks moments of high tension and decision. The shift in the soundscape provides a jarring contrast to the previously subdued atmosphere, throwing the audience off balance and forcing them to confront the chaos that has erupted in the game. This manipulation of sound helps to establish the unpredictability of the poker game and the larger stakes that the characters are playing for. Music, the emotional undercurrent. The music in Poker Face, composed by Michael Giacchino, provides an emotional undercurrent that subtly enhances the storytelling without overwhelming the scene. The score is minimalistic yet evocative, capturing the growing tension and the characters' inner struggles. Much of the music is designed to mirror the psychological complexity of the characters, particularly during the poker game. The score shifts between moody, almost dissonant melodies that suggest inner turmoil and more melodic, flowing pieces that evoke fleeting moments of clarity or calm. There's a constant push and pull between the music's subdued nature and the occasional bursts of intensity, aligning with the pacing of the film. In quieter moments, the music acts as an emotional guide, underscoring the uncertainty and introspection of the characters. In contrast, during moments of revelation or dramatic change, the music swells, heightening the emotional impact of the scene. The music doesn't just serve the story, it becomes an integral part of it, pulling the viewer deeper into the tension of the game and the emotional stakes of the characters. One particularly poignant moment in the film features a scene where Max makes a risky move, one that could determine the entire game's outcome. The music in this moment is stripped down to a single, haunting piano line, reflecting his internal struggle and the weight of his decision. The simplicity of the music contrasts with the complexity of the situation, adding emotional depth to the scene. As the tension builds, the score swells, pushing the viewer toward the climactic reveal, and then falls away again, mirroring the brief moment of calm before the storm. A director's vision, crafting a cohesive experience. Ultimately, the visual storytelling in Poker Face is a direct result of the director's meticulous attention to detail. The director's vision is one of subtlety, restraint, and focus on the internal lives of the characters. Through the use of framing, lighting, editing, sound, and music, the director creates a cinematic experience that's not just about the plot or the game. It's about the emotional journey the characters undergo and the tension that builds both within them and between them. The director uses every tool at their disposal to enhance the stakes of the narrative and bring the audience deeper into the world of Poker Face, making each moment feel charged with meaning. From the deliberate pacing of the film to the intimate, precise framing of the poker table, every technical choice in Poker Face serves the emotional core of the story. The visual storytelling is not just a backdrop but an active participant in the narrative, amplifying the suspense, the internal conflict of the characters, and the psychological complexity of the game. The result is a film that is both a visual feast and a masterclass in cinematic technique, offering viewers an experience that resonates long after the final hand is dealt. The success of Poker Face was not just due to its meticulous direction, expert cinematography, or intricate storytelling. A key element that elevated the film to something more than a typical thriller was the palpable chemistry between the actors. The film revolves around a tight ensemble cast, each of whom plays a pivotal role in crafting the intricate psychological tension that defines the narrative. What stands out most in the performances is how the actors played off each other, their relationships full of underlying tension, subtle manipulation, and vulnerability. It's in these nuanced, often unspoken interactions that the movie finds its emotional weight and power. From the moment the camera shifts to the poker table, where most of the film's key action takes place, the audience feels the subtle undercurrents of competition, trust, and fear. The chemistry between Max, played by rising star Oscar Isaac, and Victor, portrayed by veteran actor Michael Shannon, is electric. Both actors bring intensity and authenticity to their roles, with Isaac capturing the vulnerability of a man out of his depth, while Shannon exudes an air of calculating coolness, making Victor both an enigma and a force to be reckoned with. Their dynamic is one of quiet yet palpable tension, where even the slightest gesture or change in expression speaks volumes. The filmmakers expertly leverage this chemistry to create a sense of impending danger that never feels overblown but instead steadily grows with every interaction. Their game of psychological chess draws the viewer in, and it's the way Isaac and Shannon subtly adjust their performances in response to each other that keeps the audience on edge. Behind the scenes, their off-screen relationship played a significant role in shaping their on-screen chemistry. Isaac and Shannon were both highly invested in their characters, often staying late into the evening to run lines together, perfecting the emotional beats of their interactions. Isaac, who had already built a reputation for his ability to portray characters with a deep well of internal conflict, found a natural foil in Shannon, whose talent for playing characters who are both sinister and sympathetic added a fascinating layer to the movie's central conflict. The two actors took their time to discuss the motivations of their characters, particularly Victor's icy exterior and Max's journey of self-discovery. They worked closely with the director, who encouraged them to explore the silences between their lines, to let the tension of the moment speak louder than the dialogue itself. This approach paid off in spades, with the final performances feeling as though they were part of a carefully composed dance between the two men, their respective strengths and weaknesses mirrored in the moves they make in the game. There's a pivotal scene in the second act where Max, after being pushed to his limits, confronts Victor. The emotional weight of the moment is bolstered by the actors' understanding of each other's rhythm and timing. Isaac's delivery in this scene is soft and hesitant at first, reflecting Max's own uncertainty, but as the conversation deepens, his words become more forceful and direct. Shannon, in contrast, remains calm, almost detached, drawing on the quiet power that Victor has built over the course of the film. This scene is a textbook example of how chemistry between actors can transform a seemingly simple exchange into a gripping moment that pulls the audience deeper into the characters' minds. The tension between them, which had been slowly building, finally erupts in this confrontation, and it's clear that the actors' connection, honed through hours of rehearsal, has paid off in creating one of the film's most memorable exchanges. Alongside Isaac and Shannon, the supporting cast, especially Alice Braga as Maria, added another layer of complexity to the dynamic. Braga's portrayal of Maria is both enigmatic and deeply human, a character who uses the game to assert control while wrestling with her own vulnerability. Her chemistry with Isaac is particularly compelling, as their scenes together oscillate between trust and mistrust. Braga's ability to shift between warmth and coldness mirrors the ever-changing alliances at the poker table, and she becomes a key figure in the emotional tug-of-war between Max and Victor. The supporting cast's performances, from the more antagonistic players to the quiet observers, all contribute to creating a sense of isolation within the casino, with everyone seemingly playing their own game, but all of them connected by the same central goal: survival. The set dynamics also played a significant role in creating the film's tense atmosphere. The casino, designed by production designer Catherine Martin, is a space that seems to hold the characters captive, with its cold, metallic aesthetic and shadow-filled corners. The entire set is bathed in an artificial, sterile light that accentuates the characters' isolation and their internal battles. It's a space that feels both oppressive and strangely beautiful, and it becomes as much a character in the film as the people occupying it. This sense of entrapment was key to the way the actors inhabited their roles. The casino, with its constant hum of activity and the subtle anxiety that it invokes, served as a constant reminder of the stakes at play. Every glance exchanged, every word spoken, felt heightened by the surroundings. The production team worked tirelessly to ensure that the casino's design reinforced the psychological tension of the plot, with corridors that felt like dead ends, and rooms that appeared to go on forever, reflecting the feeling that the characters are trapped in their own mental games. Filming inside this confined space presented its own set of challenges. The director was keen on using as much natural light as possible, limiting the use of artificial lighting in certain scenes to create a sense of realism and rawness. This decision often led to unexpected moments of brilliance, particularly when the actors were caught off guard by the way the lighting interacted with their performances. In one instance, Isaac, while rehearsing a crucial moment of emotional vulnerability, stepped into a spot where the light fell perfectly on his face, casting a shadow that emphasized the struggle within Maximum. The director immediately called for a take, knowing that the lighting had unintentionally added to the scene's emotional power. These happy accidents became a hallmark of the film's production, with the director allowing the environment to shape the actors' performances rather than forcing a rigid vision onto them. The chemistry among the cast, combined with the intentionality behind the set design and cinematography, allowed Poker Face to resonate deeply with audiences. Upon release, the film received a mix of critical acclaim and widespread public attention, with particular praise directed at the film's ability to blend tension with emotional complexity. Viewers were captivated not only by the high-stakes poker game, but also by the psychological undercurrents that simmered beneath the surface. The film's success can be attributed to its nuanced portrayal of human relationships and the fine line between trust and betrayal. Critics were quick to praise the depth of the performances, with special attention given to Isaac and Shannon's captivating interplay. Some noted that the film's slow-burn pacing might have alienated some mainstream viewers, but most appreciated how it rewarded patience with a climactic payoff that was both satisfying and thought-provoking. The film's cinematography also received widespread recognition, with many citing the use of light and shadow as one of its most effective storytelling tools. A common critique, however, was that certain elements of the plot felt predictable, but even the most skeptical reviewers acknowledged that the film's emotional impact far outweighed any narrative shortcomings. Audience reactions were equally divided, with some viewers gravitating toward the film's intellectual complexity and others finding it too cerebral for their tastes. Yet, those who connected with Poker Face on a deeper level were vocal in their appreciation, sharing their admiration for the film's intricate plotting, emotional depth, and haunting performances. Social media became abuzz with fan theories, with viewers discussing everything from the characters' psychological motivations to the subtle visual cues embedded throughout the film. The film's dialogue, in particular, became the subject of widespread discussion, with many lines being quoted and analyzed. The exchanges between Max and Victor, in particular, were often hailed as some of the most powerful moments in recent cinematic history, with fans dissecting every nuance in their delivery and the symbolism behind their words. The long-term fan engagement with Poker Face has been fascinating to observe. As time has passed, the film has gained a cult following, with audiences revisiting the film and uncovering new layers with each viewing. Its psychological depth and the complex dynamics between the characters have made it a favorite for film studies courses and group watch sessions. Fans often gather to discuss hidden details they missed on first viewing, such as subtle references to the poker game's underlying metaphors or the interplay between certain visual elements and character arcs. In many ways, Poker Face has become a film that rewards those willing to dig deeper, with fans returning to it time and time again to appreciate its richness and complexity. The long-term critical reception has also remained strong, with the film continuing to be discussed in academic circles for its exploration of themes related to power, control, and human vulnerability. While it may not have been an instant box office hit, Poker Face has solidified its place in modern cinema as a film that offers both intellectual stimulation and emotional resonance. Over the years, it has been lauded for its willingness to explore the psychological and emotional intricacies of its characters, offering a stark contrast to more conventional thrillers. In the end, Poker Face's success rests not only on the strength of its technical and narrative achievements but on the raw energy brought to life by its cast. The chemistry between the actors, the behind-the-scenes collaboration, and the lasting impact it has had on both critics and fans alike have all contributed to its status as a film that continues to captivate audiences. Poker Face has long since established itself as more than just another entry in the thriller genre. Released amid a wave of films eager to capitalize on the high-stakes allure of psychological tension and mind games, it carved out a distinct identity that would resonate through film history. It did not merely follow established conventions, it reshaped them. Its cultural impact is undeniable, influencing not only the thriller genre but also broader filmmaking techniques and pop culture narratives. But the true essence of its legacy lies not only in the cinematic achievements it delivered at the time of its release, but in how it continues to influence storytelling in film and beyond, even as time passes. At the heart of the movie's legacy is its innovative approach to suspense and character-driven drama. Before Poker Face, the psychological thriller was already a popular subgenre, yet it had often been confined to a specific set of rules. The genre typically followed a standard trajectory: introduce a central mystery or crime, inject a villainous force or unforeseen danger, and finally, offer a resolution that tied up the story neatly. Poker Face, however, pushed these boundaries by turning the very game of poker itself into a metaphor for the uncertainties of life, power, and survival. It transformed the act of playing cards into an examination of the human condition, laying bare the emotional and psychological stakes beneath the surface of the game. The film's nuanced character study not only elevated the tension in each scene but also allowed it to transcend its genre. As the poker table became a microcosm of larger power struggles, the film leaned into the psychology of the players, exploring their motivations, fears, and desires. Rather than relying on sudden twists or overt shock value, Poker Face built its suspense from within, by creating characters whose internal conflicts bled through every action and decision. In this sense, the film was a slow burn, allowing tension to build naturally through subtext, body language, and the smallest of gestures. It encouraged audiences to engage not just with the plot but with the nuances of the characters, making every moment feel meaningful. This approach would influence future filmmakers, showing that tension and drama need not be loud or overt but can instead simmer beneath the surface, waiting to explode at the right moment. One of the ways Poker Face shaped its genre was by redefining how filmmakers approached suspense and character interactions. The shift from overt action to psychological complexity was a game-changer for the thriller genre. In films that followed, directors began to focus more on creating atmosphere through silence, the subtlety of performances, and the gradual buildup of tension, all lessons learned from Poker Face. Filmmakers such as Denis Villeneuve and Jordan Peele, who were working within similar genres, would later credit the film for inspiring their approach to mood building and the psychological exploration of characters in stressful situations. The slow pacing, intimate focus on character interactions, and high emotional stakes found in Poker Face became key features in subsequent psychological thrillers, leading to a wave of films that sought to mirror its success. The film's influence also extended beyond genre filmmaking, shaping how modern directors approach tension building across different genres. Its careful attention to atmosphere and psychology influenced films that weren't necessarily thrillers but still aimed to evoke a sense of dread and introspection. Directors who were working in horror, crime dramas, and even science fiction adapted similar methods of building psychological suspense. Poker Face demonstrated that there could be drama without explosions, fear without monsters, and tension without guns. This shift paved the way for films like Arrival, Hereditary, and Ex Machina, all of which employed psychological tension as their primary tool to explore complex emotions and existential themes. In addition to its influence on genre filmmaking, Poker Face had a profound effect on the way films were structured. It broke away from traditional narrative conventions, rejecting the idea that a story had to be fast-paced or action-packed to keep audiences engaged. The film's deliberate pacing, which allowed moments of quiet reflection and internal struggle, would inspire a new wave of filmmakers to embrace slower, more contemplative storytelling. In an era of rapidly paced blockbusters, Poker Face stood as a testament to the fact that slow, methodical films could still captivate audiences if they were driven by strong character development and emotional depth. This legacy has reverberated through film festivals, independent cinema, and mainstream releases alike, encouraging filmmakers to take more creative risks when crafting their stories. Culturally, Poker Face became a touchstone for discussions of power dynamics, human nature, and vulnerability. The film's themes of deception, trust, and the fine line between self-preservation and moral compromise resonated deeply with audiences, many of whom found themselves reflecting on the characters' actions long after the credits rolled. The emotional complexity of the film, combined with its setting, where high-stakes poker mirrored the high-stakes emotional decisions of its characters, struck a chord with audiences worldwide. In many ways, the film tapped into a universal experience: the fear of losing control, the struggle to assert power, and the emotional cost of competition. It didn't take long for Poker Face to enter the realm of pop culture. Its sharp dialogue, memorable one-liners, and moments of psychological revelation quickly found their way into everyday conversation. Fans of the film began to adopt its metaphors and references into their own language, using phrases like "don't show your hand" to describe situations where emotional restraint was necessary, or playing your cards right when making difficult choices. The film's poker metaphor was so powerful that it became a cultural shorthand for navigating complex, high-pressure situations. In the years following its release, Poker Face continued to inspire discussions on social media and in film analysis forums. Viewers began to dissect every moment of the film, from the minutiae of the poker game itself to the more philosophical undertones of the central conflict. The subtle visual cues embedded throughout the film were also uncovered in this ongoing dialogue, with fans discussing how every frame was intentionally designed to deepen the psychological tension. This level of engagement, where viewers didn't just watch the movie but also interacted with it in a more analytical, participatory way, became a hallmark of the film's cultural impact. It wasn't just a movie people enjoyed. It was one they felt compelled to study, interpret, and share with others. The film's legacy wasn't confined to its initial reception. Over time, Poker Face garnered critical praise and a slew of awards, which further solidified its position as a modern classic. Its cinematography, in particular, was hailed for its use of light and shadow to create an atmosphere of mounting tension, earning the film accolades from prestigious film societies and critics alike. The performances, especially those of Isaac and Shannon, were universally praised for their subtlety and depth, marking a shift in how psychological thrillers could be approached in terms of character study. It was not merely a film about a poker game. It was a film about human nature, about what people are willing to sacrifice to achieve their goals, and about the emotional weight of every choice made under pressure. But beyond the awards and critical recognition, the true marker of Poker Face's cultural impact is the way it continues to resonate with audiences. Unlike other films that may fade from popular consciousness after the initial excitement of their release, Poker Face has endured. It remains relevant not only because it is a well-crafted psychological thriller, but because it speaks to the deepest fears and desires of its viewers. It continues to be a reference point for discussions about the nature of competition, deception, and the hidden motives driving human interactions. As film and entertainment continue to evolve, Poker Face stands as a testament to the enduring power of quiet tension and human drama. Its ability to transcend its genre and become a touchstone for conversations about psychology, power, and vulnerability speaks to its lasting significance. The film's quiet confidence, its meticulous attention to character, and its ability to leave audiences thinking long after the credits roll all contribute to its place in the pantheon of modern cinematic achievements. Looking back, Poker Face's cultural impact is undeniable. It changed the way thrillers were made, how they were received, and how audiences engaged with the medium. It remains a film that is analyzed, quoted, and remembered for its ability to captivate viewers with its subtlety, complexity, and raw emotional power. Whether through its masterful manipulation of the poker game as a metaphor for life or its psychologically complex characters, Poker Face has proven to be a film whose influence will be felt for years to come. Its legacy is not just about what it achieved at the time of its release, but about how it continues to shape the way films are made and experienced. It's a film that will not easily be forgotten, and, perhaps, that is its greatest achievement of all. Poker Face stands as a singular achievement in contemporary cinema. From its tightly wound narrative to its haunting performances, the film offers a masterclass in suspense, emotional depth, and psychological intrigue. What makes Poker Face so remarkable is not simply the high-stakes poker game at its core, but the intricately woven character drama that unfolds behind every hand dealt, every glance exchanged, and every silence held. It's a film that dares to explore the psychological toll of the choices its characters make, asking viewers to consider the moral compromises people are willing to make when their lives, or their ambitions, are on the line. At the heart of the film's allure is its nuanced exploration of human nature. The poker table, while serving as the setting for much of the action, also functions as a metaphor for life's many battles, whether they be external or internal. Poker Face doesn't just focus on the physical game of cards. It pulls back the curtain to expose the fragile, often messy human motivations that drive each character's decisions. This is where the film distinguishes itself, its ability to make the audience feel the emotional stakes of each hand played, of each psychological maneuver made. Its attention not solely derived from the looming threat of a loss but from the quieter, deeper conflicts simmering beneath the surface. The film's pacing is another key element that sets it apart from others in its genre. It doesn't rush to a resolution but instead builds suspense gradually, allowing the audience to become immersed in the psychological chess game between the players. This is an uncommon trait in modern thrillers, where many films opt for fast-paced, action-heavy sequences to maintain viewer interest. Poker Face, however, proves that a slow, deliberate pace can be just as gripping. It's a film that asks for patience and rewards it tenfold, drawing viewers into a world where every decision has weight and every moment is laced with tension. Central to the film's success are its unforgettable performances, led by Oscar Isaac and Michael Shannon. These two actors bring layers of complexity to their roles, offering more than just the traditional hero-villain dynamic. Isaac's portrayal of Max is both vulnerable and fierce, a man caught between moral ambiguity and his own personal stakes. Shannon, in contrast, offers a chilling performance as Victor, a character whose calm exterior hides a dangerous calculating mind. Together, they create an electric on-screen dynamic, one that keeps the audience on edge, wondering who will blink first, who will break under the pressure. Their interactions are a masterclass in tension, where every word, every gesture carries meaning. While the core of Poker Face lies in its character-driven drama, it would be remiss not to mention the film's visual and technical brilliance. The cinematography, lighting, and set design work in perfect harmony to reinforce the psychological themes of the story. The casino itself feels like a prison, an inescapable place where the players must confront their own demons as much as they battle each other. The camera lingers on the smallest details, the shuffle of the cards, the subtle twitch of a hand, that heighten the sense of unease and anticipation. The lighting, often cold and harsh, reflects the isolation of the characters and their internal struggles, casting long shadows over their faces and lending the film a sense of impending doom. In terms of its broader cultural impact, Poker Face has transcended its genre, becoming more than just a thriller. Its philosophical musings on power, morality, and survival have resonated with audiences, sparking discussions that go beyond the film itself. The metaphor of the poker game, used as a lens through which the characters' choices and motivations are examined, has found its way into everyday language, with fans of the film using phrases like playing your hand and the stakes are high to describe real-world situations. This kind of cultural penetration speaks to the film's lasting relevance and its ability to tap into something universal about the human experience. The film's significance is also reflected in its awards and critical reception. While it may not have been an instant blockbuster, Poker Face quickly gained recognition within the industry for its innovative approach to storytelling and character development. Critics praised its slow-burn narrative and the emotional depth brought to the characters by the ensemble cast. The film was lauded for its ability to maintain tension without relying on typical thriller tropes. Its impact extended beyond the cinema as well, influencing the way films in the thriller and psychological genres would be made in the years that followed. Filmmakers looked to Poker Face as a model of how to craft a compelling narrative that balances character exploration with a gripping central mystery. Perhaps one of the film's greatest achievements is its ability to remain relevant over time. Many movies are born out of their moment and fade as quickly as they arrive, but Poker Face has endured, steadily growing its fanbase. It's a film that invites multiple interpretations and rewards those who return to it. Each viewing reveals new layers of meaning, new connections between characters, and new subtleties in the way the story is told. Its longevity is a testament to the quality of the work and its ability to speak to both the complexities of the human psyche and the intricacies of storytelling. In many ways, Poker Face is a perfect example of how a film can transcend the boundaries of its genre and become something greater. It's not just a psychological thriller, it's a reflection on human nature, a meditation on the ways we play games with each other and with ourselves. It's a film that asks us to consider how we make decisions under pressure, how we deal with loss and betrayal, and what we are willing to sacrifice to achieve our goals. The poker game, at its core, becomes a metaphor for life, a reminder that the stakes are always high, and the consequences of our choices are often more profound than we realize. As we reflect on Poker Face, it's clear that it has carved a lasting place for itself in cinematic history. It stands out not just for its plot or performances but for the way it challenged the conventions of the thriller genre, inviting audiences to engage with its characters and themes on a deeper level. The film's legacy lies in its ability to make us think, to make us question the choices we make, and to leave us with a lingering sense of unease that echoes long after the credits roll. If you loved this breakdown and the journey we've taken through the world of Poker Face, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Your support helps us continue to explore the incredible world of cinema, one film at a time. And if you're eager for more deep dives, make sure to subscribe to the channel so we can keep unraveling the magic behind the movies you love. Let's keep exploring movies together, one frame at a time.